Good evening, everybody. This is Carol Maletta from the Parenting 411, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. I am really looking forward to the conversation that I'm going to have tonight with Lisa Forsythe. I told you, well, I didn't tell you all about it earlier because I did create a video that I haven't posted yet, but I did tell you that Lisa would be joining me. And we're just going to talk about loving and teaching toddlers at home, which is what most of us are doing. Even if your children are enrolled in preschool, not all preschools are fully open. Some are beginning to accept students again, with certain precautions. But it's still the age-old question: what do you do with these little inquisitive, busy, high-energy people? And so I haven't talked about that too much on this series. So I was very much looking forward to meeting Lisa. She has written a new book. We're going to talk about that too. She's a teacher, so I can tell you she's going to have a lot of tips. So if you have little ones, toddlers, I really hope that you will stick with us for the next half hour, 45 minutes or whatever, to see what you can pick up that might be really helpful for you. So I'm going to bring Lisa in now and welcome her to the conversation. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Carol. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you so much for joining me. I have to tell you, when I was on Instagram and I saw a post about your book, I was definitely intrigued. And as I told you when I reached out to you, I was like, wait, where were you when I had twin toddlers, right? Because I was always trying to figure out what we could do. So just why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and the work you do, and and then we'll talk about how you've been doing during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's the question on everyone's mind, isn't it? How are we all doing and coping throughout the pandemic? So I'm Lisa and I'm Australian, and I have been a teacher for over 15 years. I have taught in Australia, in the UK, and in New Zealand, and I'm currently in Spain. So I've been living in Spain for just almost 5 years, and that's where I had my son, Thomas.
Mhm.
He's actually going to be 3 today, which is really
Wow.
exciting. And basically, we speak English at home because my husband is British, but living in Spain, my son is bilingual. He's been learning Spanish since he was born, and I speak a little bit with him. And he miraculously has maintained a decent level of the language throughout the pandemic because, as you mentioned before, like nurseries were shut. And then as a family, we made the decision not to send Thomas back to nursery until there were a vaccine or we knew more about this virus that was ravaging the world. And so our experience basically was my husband worked full time in the office, my son went to nursery, I was going to Spanish school, and we were able to travel, which was brilliant because my husband, being from the UK, isn't so far from Spain. And so we could have a lot of family time. At least once or twice a year, I could go to Australia and we could have contact with my family. And then 2020 happened.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so, how has your son been handling this? Because he could do things before, and then all of a sudden you can't. He's seeing mom and dad wearing masks, and other people wearing masks, all of that. So, how has that been for him?
It has been a challenge because when the first lockdown happened, he was 18 months old.
Mm-hmm.
18 months old, super active, very social. He loved going to the park. And in Spain, we had one of the toughest lockdowns in the world. So for almost 3 months, he couldn't even step 1 foot outside of the apartment. Children were not allowed to leave. And so we actually lived in a 2-bedroom apartment We had a small balcony, thank goodness. And basically, my son was always asking, like, park, park. Oh, sorry, mate. No, we can't. And so he was okay. But then as the weeks rolled on, it was just like, okay, we have to really plan. He needs to be running around. So let's make an indoor obstacle course. He, I don't know, needs to jump. He was trying to learn. And so we had to buy a mini trampoline to fit into the apartment. It was just trying to get all that energy out and to distract him from not being able to go outside. But then it was really difficult because in that space, my husband had to work from home. So how do you keep a toddler active but quiet during important meetings?
Right.
And then for my husband, how do you find work-life balance when our actual bedroom becomes an office? It was a real challenge, I think, for us parents, more so than for Thomas, because at that age, there was a huge change, of course, but we made a really concerted effort to keep him occupied, making sure his needs were being met as best as possible. All of a sudden, he was thrust into Zoom conversations with the grandparents or some of his other children friends. So you can imagine those conversations. Here, look at my toy. Look at this Lego tower. And that was really interesting. And seeing him in his play with his toy little phone, trying to put it on a stand and have a chat with I don't know who. But that's something that probably would not have happened prior to this lockdown. And the mask thing, he was never too shocked. It was really weird. I was more worried than he was that he would be like, oh, everyone looks really scary. But he was highly adaptable. Yeah, but I think it also helped when he's that age, and even now, he doesn't have to wear a mask.
Right.
He wants to like put one on for a few moments, and that's it.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's a challenge, and also learning a new language and having people now speak to him with a mask. That's really difficult. Young children need to see the mouth moving.
True.
The
Good
sound is a
point.
little bit muffled with a mask.
Good
And
point.
yeah, I'm lucky because like I said, he's been at home with us, so we don't need to wear a mask. But out and about, hearing that Spanish language, he is definitely not getting the pronunciation correct. Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see when he does start back at nursery in September if his speech is a little bit affected because of that.
And so I wonder too, will your family be there in Spain for the foreseeable future, or do you? Because I know you've lived and worked in different places. Do you envision moving again soon, and he might have a different adjustment?
No, I think we'll be in Spain for at least the next 3 to 5 years due to
Okay.
my husband's job. So the
Okay.
plan was to go to Spain for 2 years. And like I
Okay.
said, we've been there 5. And it's one of those things where we love it there. And pre-pandemic, it was brilliant because we could be in that bilingual environment, a different culture. We could travel quite freely. And the Mediterranean style of parenting is a lot more relaxed. And so now it's just like, well, what will that look like as we start to come out of the pandemic? Everything is changing. So
Hard to say. Now you shared some of the challenges, the struggles. Have there been any bright spots with this? Were you able to find anything like that?
yes, miraculously, I feel like the bond that we have as a family is more strong than what it was before. My
Mhm.
husband working from home means
Mhm.
that he can have lunch occasionally with us. It also means that um, my husband can play with my son before he starts work, perhaps take him to the park and they can both go out on their little scooters. And not only that, I feel like I've had to become a lot more creative as
Mhm.
a mum,
Mhm.
um, drawing upon my teaching background and really putting that into practice with not only my toddler, but my friends and family reached out as well during the lockdowns. And
Mhm.
so I started an Instagram account and I was sharing different activity ideas. And I don't know, it's really bizarre. I felt like I was helping people at various
Mhm.
stages. And so I think that kind of kept me sane a little bit because being at home full time, a lot of the time not being able to go outside,
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was really nice that I could connect with other people
Mhm.
and I could share what I was doing, they could share what they were doing. And so bizarrely, I found a community of people
Mhm.
online. I
Mhm.
never would have done that before
Mhm.
because we're all so busy, right? We
Right.
probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so that brings me to another question, and that's pretty much how your book was started. Did you write it during the pandemic, or was this something before?
No. So basically, I was doing the Instagram account just for friends and family, and that's what I was just keeping up because there are various lockdowns throughout the world at various times.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until October that I was like, oh, I've got so many more ideas. Um, I've always wanted to write a book, but I
Mm-hmm.
thought I'd be like a crime novelist because that's one of my passions. But here I
Mm-hmm.
am. I've created a simple activities for toddler book. And so in October, I just started writing everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided, well, okay, let's pursue this a little bit further. Perhaps I can see if I can get a photographer. Okay, I can use a platform. I used Upwork and I could find an editor. I could find somebody to do my book cover. And it was like, oh, okay, perhaps this book will actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I really used every spare minute that I had. My son would nap for 2 hours a day. My husband would look after Thomas in the morning for a little bit. In the evenings, when he was asleep, I'd just keep plugging away and writing these ideas. And then during the day, Thomas and I would do the activities.
Okay.
And so it was exhausting. And 5 months later, I managed to publish the book. It's self published, and I have no regrets because I was actually in talks with a publisher and I'm still waiting for a response at the moment as to whether they thought my idea was good enough to go ahead with or not. But
Mm-hmm.
parents need ideas now. And that's why I felt like it's the better time to put it out as early as possible. I'll self publish, and it's because of the pandemic, really, that this has come about. And so
Mm-hmm.
now I'm in a situation where I want to grow this further and I want to provide more support to parents and carers or grandparents, whoever is involved in the
Mm-hmm.
lives of a toddler, because
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting. There is so much information online, but it's not always from credible sources. It's
Right.
always, oh, this mom and this WhatsApp group told me this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, okay, but is there anything to back it up? Is there any science behind what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Oh no. Okay. Um, and so I want to kind of connect with other parents, connect with other people like yourself who
Mm-hmm.
have experience, who have knowledge, who have their own books, and they
Mm-hmm.
can actually value add to some of these conversations. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you're the same. Like you said, you had toddlers and they were twins at one point. Well, they were twins and they're a lot older now. How old are your children?
They are 21. They're in college.
Yeah, yeah, much
Yeah.
easier than twin toddlers, I can imagine.
Yes, but I tell you, and I talk about this in my book as well. Every milestone, everything they could do, everything they accomplished, was just, just made things a little bit easier. Oh, you can sit up now. That's wonderful. Oh, you can hold your, you can hold your bottle now. Oh, that's wonderful. Now I can, look away for a second or whatever. But yeah, it was quite an adventure. Definitely an adventure, but one I would do again and again. I really did enjoy them. It was pretty funny there sometimes. And I was constantly trying to figure out, fun activities. I had a few books. I remember I had a Montessori activity book, with things that I would do with them as well. But you just kind of run out of run out of ideas, and then they like some activities and then they don't like others. So it can be
Yeah,
tricky.
definitely. Very, very tricky. And
Hmm.
there are so many, well, actually, there are so many books out there, but
Hmm.
there is a quality resource. And then there's something that's just doesn't make sense. Something that's just Montessori, something that
Hmm.
is just another theory base. And a lot
Hmm.
of the times, these books have quick activities and they're over within 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a real issue for parents to have all day, every day. So I do not sell myself as, oh, this activity only takes 5 minutes. I don't say that I am just focusing on imaginative play. I'm coming from the angle that children are so diverse, families
Hmm.
are very diverse, and
Hmm.
what works for one child doesn't work for another. And with twins, well, good luck if every activity works for both of your children. They have
Yeah,
their own personalities, right?
absolutely. So I'm wondering, what do you think you'll do next? I mean, now that this is caught on, what do you think you'll do next?
So at the moment, I am having a website built. And so I'm going to also have a YouTube channel. And
Okay.
for families that would like practical in the moment sessions, whether it be for a science experiment, whether it's like a cooking session. Sometimes parents want a little bit more of a guide, a visual. And so
Okay.
I'm hoping that a week or so in advance, be like, okay, we're going to do a volcano experiment. So
Hmm.
on this day and this time, you need to have like baking soda, some vinegar, whatever the materials are ready, and so
Hmm.
that's also teaching your child about planning in advance, and it's giving them something to look forward to. And I would like to have some sessions like that. I would like to have a blog where I have experts share eating tips, for example, because a lot of families struggle when it comes to meal times. There's a lot of
Hmm.
fussy eaters, picky eaters, and there's all this anxiety around mealtime. And
Hmm.
so having a reputable source offer tips and advice, that would be fantastic. I'm hoping to have people talk about nutrition and how that
Hmm.
affects the child's brain development, for example.
Hmm.
Or one thing that's very important for toddlers is play-based learning. And
Right.
it's play is not something you do when, oh, just give me 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Play is how they learn. Play is so much fun, and education for toddlers needs to be play based.
Hmm.
And especially with the pandemic, one way for children to heal and for their well-being, their emotional health is going to be through play. So
Mm-hmm.
having people talk about that, but it's also one of those really, really important areas, trying to get parents to understand as well that playing with your child is strengthening your bond with them.
Mm-hmm.
Playing with them as well allows them to develop social skills. So throughout the pandemic, they're not meeting a lot of new people. They're not having as many interactions as before. So
Mm-hmm.
playing a game with them, even if it's something really simple like a memory game, for example, they're practicing turn taking. That's a
Mm-hmm.
brilliant skill they need for life.
Absolutely.
Or sharing again,
Mm-hmm.
something that is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Patience. No, 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 you actually just, you need to wait now. It's mummy's turn or daddy's
Mm-hmm.
turn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it sounds so simple, but again, if you're not aware of these skills needing to be taught, not
Right.
understanding that you can do it throughout play, then there's going to be this real deficit when it comes to toddlers and their social skills going
Mm-hmm.
forward. But it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be that way. We don't have to be experts. We just need to find the right information, the
Mm-hmm.
right guidance. And then it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about my child so much because
Mm-hmm.
they can make eye contact when we're speaking, they can
Mm-hmm.
wait their turn, and just general manners. Because saying please and thank you, we have to model that to them. They're not getting that elsewhere.
Absolutely. And language and conversation for sure. I mean, just even turn taking in conversation is something very valuable for them to learn too. So, in these interactions that you're having, with our children at home, we're home a lot more than we normally would be, but that allows for a lot of wonderful things. It's really a silver lining, which I envisioned when this first started. I know when I would do Facebook Lives or IG Lives and things like that, I would talk a lot about that very early on. And I think some people were like, "What is she talking about? We've, what silver lining?" I mean, all of a sudden I have to work from home. All of a sudden I have to oversee my child's schooling. What is she talking about, a silver lining? And I'm like, just watch. There will be. And what I said too about this experience was that it was a situation where everybody had to slow down, because
Yes.
sometimes there's pressure when it's just you, like you have a family situation or you have a work situation that causes you to have to slow down, but you see your neighbor and other people, they're moving ahead, they're continuing, and so you feel like you're missing out on something. But this was a leveler.
Yes.
Everybody was really experiencing a lot of the same basic limitations. And so,
Definitely.
yeah, so that's why it's like, lean into this. I'm telling you. And we're I'm outside Washington, D.C., and it's very busy here. It's very competitive here. Right down, from moms and dads down to the children, sports, academics, everything. And it may be very much like that too, in Barcelona. But I was like, be glad that you're not driving around to, all of the sports activities and the music and the this and the that, and running around and going back and forth to work, commuting to work, and being stuck in traffic and all of that. So just lean
Yeah.
into this for a minute now. Not that I knew that it would be, nearly 2 years. I didn't know that. I mean, honestly, I thought we were looking at a few weeks, maybe,
Mhm.
a month, because I had my last speaking engagement the day before the lockdown,
Oh, wow.
and someone in my workshop actually raised her hand and said, I'm just trying to think about what's going to happen, if they close school and all that. I was like, I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, and then I gave some tips, and little did I know that I've been talking about that ever since. I mean, on different platforms, I've been, talking about it. And so one of the things I did say, even when I was talking there, was like, there may be a silver lining here because, although my children are older now, I remember running around, having to make sure I get to school to pick them up on time. And then they have to, right after that, they've got to go to Taekwondo or they've got to go to gymnastics or something like that. Just a lot of driving and running around. So I was like, wait a minute, this
Yeah.
might help. This might be.
And it has. As long as people keep with that mentality once things open up completely, because what you're saying is so true. Not only are we so busy with our jobs, but then our children are as busy as we are because it's school, long days, all the extra activities, and they need to have a play date. Oh, but my child, well, I want them to have a language and they need to do sport, they need to do music, they need to do so many things that actually they don't.
Right.
They really don't. They need rest as well. And they just want time with their parents. And these other things are great, but you don't have to be doing something every single day or 2, 3 things squeezed in after school. It's just exhausting, and the children aren't getting the benefits that they should be because they are so tired, and they just end up feeling quite anxious because, as you were saying before, people are so competitive. And that's the nature of these things. A lot of them don't turn into being a lot of fun because I have to be the best.
Yes, I tell you. So I wonder if you could share 3 quick tips that for parents of toddlers for engaging their children this summer.
Yes, I think the most important thing is family time. And if you can make that outdoors, whether it's going for a walk in a forest nearby, whether it's going to the local swimming pool, just have fun with your child. Be open to having conversations with them. If you're still working and you're busy, even if you make 1 hour of quality time a day, where you're physically looking each other in the eye, you're doing something fun. You might not find it fun for the 15th time you've had to do it that week, but for your child, that repetition is really good. And so I think just prioritizing that family time and engagement with nature. Another tip would be don't put pressure on yourself or compare what you're doing with your child to your neighbor or to your nieces and nephews and what they're doing in their family. Just do what feels right for your family. It doesn't have to be anything perfect. You don't have to plan a trip to Disneyland, and no, just keep it simple. The pandemic has been going on a long time. It's super stressful. Take a deep breath and relax. And finally, the other tip would be to be more mindful, to be present if you can. So just going at a slower pace. You could do a little yoga session because that's a really good idea for children for sure. But sometimes they're going to get bored, and that's okay. That's when children start to think for themselves. They invent their own games. So just roll with a little bit of boredom. You don't have to have the TV on all the time at all.
Yeah, those are great ideas. And, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, and I had been talking about it as well with a few of my parent talks. And that was that when this is over, don't go back to business as usual.
No.
Like continue these connections that you talked about, continue to create those moments for self-care and allow your child to be bored, like you said, so that your child can find things to do. And even for yourself, we adults need a moment to just have some downtime and not be thinking about the next thing, whether it be at work or, thinking about the next thing we need to get our child involved in, worried about that. So I want to have our viewers know where they can get your book.
Okay, so at the moment, it's available on Amazon worldwide. So if you type in, my name's probably the easiest. So Lisa Forsythe, that's Forsythe, and it will come right up. And if you're in Spain, it's available at a place called Alapeque in Madrid, or on Charlie's Footsteps.
Mm-hmm.
And from June, I'll have a website, and that will just be lisaforsythe.com, and you'll be able to purchase it there as well.
Okay, and then also let them know your IG handle, and I don't know if you're on Twitter too, but why don't you tell them that as well, because that's how I found you.
Yes, I know. It was really nice connecting with you. So on Instagram, it's all lowercase letters and there are no spaces. It's at Simple Toddler Activities.
Mm-hmm.
And on Twitter, I'm Lisa Forsythe 0.
Zero, like the number zero?
The number, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good then. I hope that our viewers heard that, but I'm also going to put it in the chat as well, so that people that are catching it on replay can come back and watch. So, excuse me, go back and get your book from there. So, so anything else you want our viewers to know before we finish?
Just that my inbox is always open on Instagram or Twitter, because if you have any little concerns or you want a specific activity for your child of a certain age, perhaps they've got sensory issues, please just message me. Or if you see other accounts on Instagram and the people running those have a teaching background or a speech and language background, they're happy for you to reach out and just ask a quick question, and hopefully that will solve any problems that you have.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you're really onto something where you're talking about how you'll, have your YouTube channel and you'll have videos with demonstrations. I know another mom who does that with cooking, and it is so popular, let me tell you. And she does what you suggested. A few days before, she has a shopping list and tells you what to get. And then, of course, then she walks you through making whatever dish it is. It's highly popular. And I think that that approach would work wonders with what you want to do with toddler activities. So that is great. Thank you so much. And I think this is valuable. The information that you have is so valuable, and I hope people will reach out to you. And thank you so much. I know we have the time difference and everything, so
That's all right.
I didn't inconvenience you too much, but thank you so much, and we'll just keep in touch.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much, Carol.
Okay, so thank you everybody that tuned in, and I will be talking to you tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.